Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this. I am Alex, and I go by ThatMan, Coach ThatMan to be exact. I am a certified health coach, and I just wanted to turn my volumes off because phone's right next to the microphone, so I don't want to disturb y'all. But if you're tuning in now, we are about to read through step 11 of the 12 steps and 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. The purpose of this video is just so that we can have a read through of it, and also I'll be sharing my experiences as I read it. Um, I am a recovering addict. I have 6 years and some change, clean and sober, free from the slavery of drug addiction. And through my recovery, I've learned a lot about myself. And these principles, these 12 principles, are what I have been able to apply to my life to go from 18 years of active drug addiction since I was 12 years old, okay, to now a little over 6 years of an amazing life, to be honest. I've been blessed. I've been very blessed. I'm fortunate to just even be here and have the opportunity to do this. So, this is why I do it. I do it because I believe I was given a chance to live again so that I can help others live their lives, right? So that's what we're doing today. We'll be going over step 11, which is a pretty lengthy step. So I'll read through it as quickly as possible. If you're here in the live stream, go ahead and comment opinions, questions, anything like that. If you are watching this later, you can watch the live stream chat. But you can also comment in the regular comment section your opinions, your experiences, whatever you feel that's on your heart that you want to comment. I go back and I check my comments all the time, and I make sure I respond to every single person who takes the time to leave a comment. So definitely do that. If you're not subscribed to my channel, uh, and you'd like to follow this kind of content where we talk about financial, emotional, spiritual freedom, then go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified every time I go live or a video gets published. Okay. I do a Bad Boys live show every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, with my best friend Oscar, who also has some experiences of his own. And on that show, we basically tell your truth through ours, helping to lead you towards financial freedom, emotional freedom, spiritual freedom, by sharing what we've overcome. So, and we invite people to come and share their experiences because we believe that our experiences are the only things that no one can take away from us, but we can freely and generously give to anyone at any time. So, with that being said, I don't want to take up too much of your time. If you haven't watched the other steps, I'm creating a series. So we're on 11th step, which is the 11th day. Basically, in the end of June, the last 12 days, June of 2021, I decided to go live and read each step for every day. So you can go back, watch the playlist, and revisit step 1, step 3, step 4, and you can watch it over and over. And I would recommend, if you don't have this little itty bitty book right here, the 12 steps and 12 traditions, which doesn't look like this. This is like my own cover that I made 6 years ago. Go ahead and get you one. That way you can read along while you watch, right? And with that being said, let me say hi to a few people here in the chat. We got Heather the reseller. What's up? So if y'all don't know, I am a reseller, and I came onto YouTube as a reseller. So the majority of my followers and friends are resellers. All right. We got Mookie to the Pookie. What's up? We got reselling rock stars. What's going on? I love the pictures of the doggies. I really do. So with that being said, I'm gonna jump right into it. All right, I'm gonna jump right into it. Let's go back. So originally we started with step 1, where we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2 was where we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood them. Step 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. Step 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. And today, like I said, it's a little bit lengthy. Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. So in this step, these are a couple of things we'll be discussing. Meditation and prayer are main channels to higher power. Connection between self-examination and meditation and prayer, an unshakable foundation for life. How shall we meditate? Meditation has no boundaries, an individual adventure. First result is emotional balance. What about prayer? We'll also be discussing the daily petitions for understanding of God's will and grace to carry it out. Actual results of prayer are beyond question, and rewards of meditation and prayer. So that's what we'll be talking about in this little itty bitty book right here. Hey, Alma Gonzalez, how's it going? That's my mom's right there. I'll put her up so y'all can see it because she's on Facebook. What's up, Alma Gonzalez? How's it going? Hola. All right. So, step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Prayer and meditation are our principal means of conscious contact with God. We AAs are active folk, enjoying the satisfactions of dealing with the realities of life, usually for the first time in our lives, and strenuously trying to help the next alcoholic or person who comes along. So it isn't surprising that we often tend to slight serious meditation and prayer as something not really necessary. To be sure, we feel it is something that might help us to meet an occasional emergency, but at first, many of us are apt to regard it as a somewhat mysterious skill of clergymen from which we may hope to get a secondhand benefit. Or perhaps we don't believe in these things at all. To certain newcomers and to those one-time agnostics who still cling to the AA group as their higher power, claims for the power of prayer may, despite all the logic and experience and proof of it, still be unconvincing or quite objectionable. Those of us who once felt this way can certainly understand and sympathize. We well remember how something deep inside us kept rebelling against the idea of bowing before any God. Many of us had strong logic too, which proved there was no God whatsoever. What about all the accidents, sickness, cruelty, and injustice in the world? What about all those unhappy lives which were the direct result of unfortunate birth and uncontrollable circumstances? Surely there could be no justice in this scheme of things, and therefore no God at all. What's up, Gate City Paul? Hey, that rhymed. Sometimes we took a slightly different tack. Sure, we said to ourselves, the hen probably did come before the egg. No doubt the universe had a first cause of some sort. The God of the atom may be hot and cold by turns. But certainly there wasn't any evidence of a God who knew or cared about human beings. We liked AA all right, and were quick to say that it had done miracles. But we recoiled from meditation and prayer as obstinately as a scientist who refused to perform a certain experiment lest it prove his pet theory wrong. Of course, we finally did experiment, and when unexpected results followed, we felt different. In fact, we knew different. And so we were sold on meditation and prayer. And that, we have found, can happen to anybody who tries. All right? All you got to do is try, yo. It has been well said that, quote, almost the only scoffers at prayer are those who never tried it enough, end quote. Those of us who have come to make regular use of prayer would no more do without it then we would refuse air, food, or sunshine. And for the same reason, when we refuse air, light, or food, the body suffers. And when we turn away from meditation and prayer, we likewise deprive our minds, our emotions, and our intuitions of vitally needed support. As the body can fail its purpose for lack of nourishment, so can the soul. We all need the light. We all need the light of God's reality, the nourishment of His strength, and atmosphere of His grace. To an amazing extent, the facts of AA life confirm this ageless truth. There is a direct linkage among self-examination, meditation, and prayer. Taken separately, these practices can bring much relief and benefit. But when they are logically related and interwoven, the result is an unshakable foundation for life. Now and then, we may be granted a glimpse of that ultimate reality, which is God's kingdom. And we will be comforted and assured that our own destiny in that realm will be secure for so long as we try. However, falteringly to find and do the will of our own Creator. As we have seen, self-searching is a means by which we bring new vision, action, and grace to bear upon the dark and negative side of our natures. Dude, if y'all haven't been listening to these last 10 steps, man, it is a step in the development of that kind of humility that makes it possible for us to receive God's help. Yet it is only a step. We will want to go further. We will want the good that is in us all, even in the worst of us, to flower and to grow. Most certainly we shall need bracing air and an abundance of food. But first of all, we shall want sunlight. Nothing much can grow in the dark. Meditation is our step out into the sun. How then shall we meditate? The actual experience of meditation and prayer across the certain centuries is, of course, immense. The world's libraries and places of worship are a treasure trove for all seekers. It is to be hoped that every AA who has a religious connection with which emphasizes meditation will return to the practice of that devotion as never before. But what about the rest of us who, less fortunate, don't even know how to begin? Well, we might start like this. First, let's look at a really good prayer. This is my favorite prayer, y'all. This is my favorite prayer. We won't have far to seek. The great men and women of all religions have left us a wonderful supply. Here let us consider one that is a classic. Its author was a man who for several hundred years now has been rated as a saint. We won't be biased or scared off by the fact, because although he was not an alcoholic, he did, like us, go through the emotional ringer. All right? Y'all ain't hearing it, man. Y'all, I don't know if y'all hear this, man. As he came out the other side of that painful experience, this prayer was his expression of what he could then see, feel, and wish to become. Yo, check this out. I might cry on this one. Check this out. Lord, make me a channel of thy peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love. That where there is wrong, I may bring the spirit of forgiveness. That where there is discord, I may bring harmony. That where there is error, I may bring truth. That where there is doubt, I may bring faith. That where there is despair, I may bring hope. That where there are shadows, I may bring light. That where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds. It is by forgiving that one is forgiven. It is by dying that one awakens to eternal life. Amen. That's my favorite prayer. That's the St. Augustine prayer. All right. If y'all don't know who St. Augustine is, Amazing story about St. Augustine. Go look him up. Um, go look him up. As beginners in meditation, we might now reread this and prayer and as reread this prayer several times very slowly, savoring every word and trying to take in the deep meaning of each phrase and idea. It will help if we can drop all resistance to what our friend says, for in meditation, debate has no place. We rest quietly with the thoughts of someone who knows so that we may experience and learn. Hey, Jody. Nice to see you. Jody's over in Facebook. If you're watching this now, Jody's in the chat on Facebook, so you might not see her in the YouTube chat. As though lying upon a sunlit beach, let us relax and breathe deeply of the spiritual atmosphere with which the grace of this prayer surrounds us. Let us become willing to partake and be strengthened and lifted up by the sheer spiritual power, beauty, and love of which these magnificent words are the carriers. Let us look now upon the sea and ponder what its mystery is, and let us lift our eyes to the far horizon, beyond which we shall seek all those wonders still unseen. Shucks, says somebody. This is nonsense. It isn't practical. When such thoughts break in, we might recall a little ruefully how much store we used to set by imagination as it tried to create reality out of bottles. Yes, we reveled in that sort of thinking, didn't we? And though sober nowadays, don't we often try to do much the same thing? Perhaps our trouble was not that we used our imagination. Perhaps the real trouble was our almost total inability to point imagination toward the right objectives. There's nothing the matter with constructive imagination. All sound achievement rests upon it. After all, no man can build a house until he first envisions a plan for it. Well, meditation is like that too. It helps to envision our spiritual objective before we try to move toward it. So let's get back to that sunlit beach, or to the plains, or to the mountains, if you prefer. When by such simple devices we have placed ourselves in a mood in which we can focus undisturbed on constructive imagination, we might proceed like this. Once more, we read our prayer and again try to see what its inner essence is. We'll think now about the man who first uttered the prayer. First of all, he wanted to become a channel. Then he asked for the grace to bring love, forgiveness, harmony, truth, faith, hope, light, and joy to every human being he could. Next came the expression of an aspiration and a hope for himself. He hoped, God willing, that he might be able to find some of these treasures too. This he would try to do by what he called self-forgetting. What did he mean by self-forgetting? And how did he propose to accomplish that? He thought it better to give comfort than to receive it, better to understand than to be understood, better to forgive than to be forgiven. This much could be a fragment of what is called meditation, perhaps our very first attempt at a mood, a flyer into the realm of spirit, if you like. It ought to be followed by a good look at where we stand now, and a further look at what might happen in our lives were we able to move closer to the ideal we have been trying to glimpse. Meditation is something which can always be further developed. It has no boundaries, either of width or height. Aided by such instruction and example as we can find, it is essentially an individual adventure, something which each one of us works out in his own way. But its object is always the same: to improve our conscious contact with God, with his grace, wisdom, and love. And let's always remember that meditation is in reality intensely practical. One of its first fruits is emotional balance. With it, we can broaden and deepen the channel between ourselves and God as we understand Him. Now, what of prayer? Prayer is the raising of the heart and mind to God. And in this sense, it includes meditation. How may we go about it? And how does it fit in with meditation? Prayer, as commonly understood, is a petition to God. Having opened our channel as best we can, we try to ask for those right things of which we and others are in the greatest need. And we think that the whole range of our needs is well defined by that part of step 11, which says, not quote, knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out, end quote. A request for this fits in any part of our day. In the morning, we think of the hours to come. Perhaps we think of our day's work and the chances it may afford us to be useful and helpful, or of some special problem that it may bring. Possibly today we'll see a continuation of a serious and as yet unresolved problem left over from yesterday. Our immediate temptation will be to ask for specific solutions to specific problems and for the ability to help other people as we have already thought they should be helped. Did y'all hear that? I'm going to read that little line right there again. Possibly today we'll see a continuation of a serious and as yet unresolved problem left over from yesterday. Our immediate temptation will be to ask for specific solutions to specific problems and for the ability to help other people as we have already thought they should be helped. In that case, we are asking God to do it our way. Therefore, we ought to consider each request carefully to see what its real merit is. Even so, when making specific requests, it will be well to add to each one of them this qualification. If thy will be done. If it be thy will, that's what it says. We ask simply that throughout the day, God place in us the best understanding of His will that we can have for that day, and that we be given the grace by which we may carry it out. This is deep stuff. This is why nobody watches this. You know that, right? Like nobody wants to watch this, dude. It's too deep. All right. As the day goes on, we can pause where situations, this book was written for people who don't want to hear it by somebody who wants to tell them. Did y'all know that? This book is written for people who don't want to hear this by somebody who wants to tell them. As the day goes on, we can pause where situations must be met and decisions made and renew the simple request. Thy will, not mine, be done. If at these points our emotional disturbance happens to be great, we will more surely keep our balance, provided we remember and repeat to ourselves a particular prayer or phrase that has appealed to us in our reading or meditation. Just saying it over and over will often enable us to clear a channel choked up with anger, fear, frustration, or misunderstanding, and permit us to return to the surest help of all, our search for God's will, not our own, in the moment of stress. At these critical moments, if we remind ourselves that it is better to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved, we will be following the intent of step 11. All right. What's up, Amy? No, yes, Mookie. No, yes. And it literally just said that right there. So I'm going to read that part again. So what I had just said was this book was written for people who do not want to hear it by somebody who wants to tell them. All right. And again, that's just my opinion on it. That's my interpretation of it. Why do I say that? Because of this. It is better to comfort than to be comforted. So to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved, right? So with that being said, this book, what this person is saying with that prayer the St. Augustine prayer, it's about outside of you. It's outside of you. It's not you. You're doing, instead of asking for you, right? You're doing. It's better for you to love than to be loved, right? So this is Bill W's love letter to people who need love the most, but don't know how to receive it. That's what I meant by that. You get what I'm saying? Of course, it is reasonable and understandable that the question is often asked, why can't we take a specific and troubling dilemma straight to God and in prayer secure for him sure and definite answers to our requests? This can be done, but it has hazards. We have seen AAs ask with much earnestness and faith for God's explicit guidance on matters ranging all the way from a shattering domestic or financial crisis to correcting a minor personal fault like tardiness. Quite often, however, the thoughts that seem to come from God are not answers at all. They prove to be well-intentioned, unconscious rationalizations. The AA, or indeed any man or woman, all right? The AA or indeed any man who tries to run his life rigidly by this kind of prayer, by this self-serving demand of God for replies, is a that's a hard word. I have an accent. That's the problem. Is a particularly disconcerting individual. I'm going to read that again. All right. I'm going to read that again. I messed that one up. Read it again. The AA, or indeed any man who tries to run his life rigidly by this kind of prayer, by this self-serving demand of God for replies, is a particularly disconcerting individual. Woo! Hey, I know English. Man. To any questioning or criticism of his actions, he instantly pre-offers his reliance upon prayer for guidance in all matters, great or small. He may have forgotten the possibility that his own wishful thinking and the human tendency to rationalize has distorted his so-called guidance. With the best of intentions, he tends to force his own will into all sorts of situations and problems with the comfortable assurance that he is acting under God's specific direction. Under such an illusion, he can, of course, create great havoc without in the least intending it. I need some water, excuse me. Because I talk like Ricky Ricardo. Lucy, what did you do? Babaloo. Don't forget to drink your water. Being hydrated is very important. You can drink a whole gallon of water a day and be perfectly fine. But if you do, make sure you don't do it in one sitting. Take it little by little throughout the day. And also replenish yourself with electrolytes because the water is going to flush all the salts out your body. And yeah. Message! That was your health tip for the day. Sorry, we had to take a pause for some water. Please hold. Okay, we're good. Everything's fine. All right. I completely forgot where I was. Anybody remember? Anybody? All right, I think I'll just start from here. With the best of intentions, he tends to force his own will into all sorts of situations and problems with the comfortable assurance that he is acting under God's specific direction. Under such an illusion, he can, of course, create great havoc without in the least intending it. We also fall into another similar temptation. We form ideas as to what we think God's will is for other people. We say to ourselves, this one ought to be cured of his fatal malady, or that one ought to be revealed of his emotional pain. And we pray for these specific things. Such prayers, of course, are fundamentally good acts, but often they are based upon a supposition. I sound like a DJ. Supposition that we know God's will for the person for whom we pray. This means that side by side with an earnest prayer, there can be a certain amount of presumption and conceit in us. It is AA's experience that, particularly in these cases, we ought to pray that God's will, whatever it is, be done for others as well as for ourselves. In AA, we have found that the actual good results of prayer are beyond question. They are matters of knowledge and experience. All those who have persisted have found strength not ordinarily their own. They have found wisdom beyond their usual capability, and they have increasingly found a peace of mind which can stand firm in the face of difficult circumstances. We discover that we do receive guidance for our lives to just about the extent that we stop making demands upon God to give it to us on order and on our terms. Almost any experienced AA will tell how his affairs have taken remarkable and unexpected turns for the better as he tried to improve his conscious contact with God. He will also report that out of every season of grief or suffering, when the hand of God seemed heavy or even unjust, new lessons for living were learned. New resources of courage were uncovered, and that finally, inescapably, the conviction came that God does move in a mysterious way his wonders to perform. Telling you, man, grateful for everything, the good and the bad in life. Just be grateful. You're going through some stuff, be grateful, because you're gonna go through it. I think it's Steve Harvey that said it. It's Steve Harvey that said it. And I don't know the exact words, so don't take that as the quote. But he basically was like, you know what your survival rate on bad days is? 100%. Like your survival rate, if you're listening, if you're hearing these words, your survival rate on your bad days are 100%. You have survived every single bad day you've ever been through. And if you got anything from that, you learned something from those days. So you need to be grateful for the bad as much as the good. Emotionally, it might be hurting, it might hurt, but you still got to be grateful for it. Gratitude isn't necessarily an emotion. It's really not. It could feel good, but it's not an emotion in itself. It's an intention. It's an act. It's an attitude. Gratitude is the attitude. It's an attitude. It's something you act upon. Just be grateful. I mean, you could still be sad because something happened out of your control, but you can still be grateful, right? You can still be thankful for the good that came out of that, because in every situation there's good and there's bad. And we tend to focus on the dark clouds, not the sun that's shining through them. All this should be very encouraging news for those who recoil from prayer because they don't believe in it, or because they feel themselves cut off from God's help and this direction. All of us, without exception, pass through times when we can pray only with the greatest exertion of will. Occasionally, we go even further than this. We are seized with a rebellion so sickening that we simply won't pray. When these things happen, we should not think too ill of ourselves. We should simply resume prayer as soon as we can, doing what we know to be good for us. What's up, Gompa? What's up, man? Perhaps one of the greatest rewards of meditation and prayer is a sense of belonging that comes to us. We no longer live in a completely hostile world. Yo, before I even read this, I was on with Lone Star Picker yesterday, and Cali Reseller Lewis wasn't there, but Mindful Merchants, they invited me on to talk and stuff, and he talked about the noise, like silencing, like turning off the TVs and disconnecting your phone and like, spending time with yourself. And I was like, yeah, but for the most part, most people, even when they do that, it's still not silent. There's a lot of noise going on, to be with yourself. To be with yourself completely in solitude, your mind is going to be loud and louder than ever. It's going to amplify because there's nothing else to distract you. So now your mind, whatever you got, whatever you've been dealing with your whole life is going to come out. And if you spend enough time with yourself and you understand yourself, you practice these principles, your mind can be silenced. You can meditate and then pray, right? And then have more of an understanding of what you're praying for and be more at peace. So again, perhaps one of the greatest rewards of meditation and prayer is a sense of belonging that comes to us. We no longer live in a completely hostile world. We are no longer lost and frightened and purposeless. We are good because we're by ourselves, but we're not by ourselves because now we have faith. We believe in a higher power. We know we're not alone. When you get to this stage, you know it, and you have peace, and you feel good. Even when you feel bad. Is that I don't know if y'all feel me. Even when you feel bad, you feel good. Even when things are hectic, you feel good. Because you know you're not alone. You have that strength. You have that courage. You have that humility, that wisdom, that, you know what I'm saying? We're no longer lost and frightened and purposeless. The moment we catch even a glimpse of God's will, the moment we begin to see truth, justice, and love as the real and eternal things in life, we are no longer deeply disturbed by all the seeming evidence to the contrary that surrounds us in purely human affairs. We know that God lovingly watches over us. We know that when we turn to Him, all will be well with us here and after. And that's it. Booyaka. That is step 11, y'all. That is step 11. So I hope y'all got something out of it. If you did, please give this a like, give it a like before you go anywhere. And if you know somebody that would benefit from listening to this, if there's somebody new to this, I wouldn't recommend sharing this live. But if you know somebody that could relate to this and maybe help them out, share it with them. Send them a private message, whatever. You could get the link and send it to them. But for somebody who really needs to open up, start them off with step 1. And all of those steps, 1 through 11 currently, are on a playlist on my YouTube channel. You can go and check it out at any time, revisit it as many times as you like. And tomorrow will be the final step, which is the 12th step, but it isn't the final step. Tomorrow's step is all about the continuing practice of all these principles. Okay. It's a way for you to understand that now that you have been able to apply these principles in your life, now it's your turn to help others understand them and apply them in theirs, because it's not about you. In the beginning, it was all about you. In the beginning, you were looking for help. In the beginning, you were suffering. In the beginning, you didn't know why your life was so unmanaged, uncontrollable, why you were dealing with things in the way you were, why you were so stressed out, why you were so afraid. You didn't know these things in the beginning. Now that you do, it's time for you to share that opportunity for someone else to find that peace, to find that humility, to find that freedom. So that's what the 12th step to me is about. Again, that's my interpretation of it, but we will be covering that tomorrow. And if you're watching this later in the future, you can see the whole thing on my YouTube channel. So with that being said, please follow me, please subscribe. I'm on a mission. So be a part of that. All right. I have my Facebook link in the description. I have my Instagram link. You could always just go to Linktree and follow all my social media on there. It's Linktree / it's Coach ThatMan on Linktree. All right. You can go there and look me up and you can get all my info there. With that being said, yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed. Thank you. Thank you, Gumpo, for being here. Thank you. Thank you, Mookie, for being here. Amy, hi. Thank you for showing up. Jody, thank you for being here. Gate City Paul, thank you for passing by. Alma, I'm hungry. Just kidding. Reselling rock stars, what's up? Thank you for being here. And Heather, thank you for giving me that thumbs up early on. Love y'all. Don't forget, you can be good. I mean, I always mess that up. You can be bad and still be good, but be good or be good at it. Till next time, peace, money, love,